6 years ago when we met, we fell in love right away, but we also realized that we had a lot of differences regarding what is love. So what was love for you 6 years ago when we met?
It's a good question. It's changed in a big way. It's changed in a big way where I didn't even realize that I was falling in love with you when I was falling in love with you until you said it. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I am. I think my interpretation of love at that time was defined by textbook love, if I'm going to call it that. Right? So what I would define as textbook love would be what you read in stories, what you see in movies. One of my favorite movie subjects is rom-coms, romantic comedies. Romantic comedies are very textbook love because that is absolutely not life. They show, the sequence of when they meet. Then there's this, oh, wow, I like that person. I'm falling for that person. Oh, no, something has happened. Oh, wow, we're back together and life is awesome. So I think that would have been probably a bit close when we met. My daughter was 5 at the time, and I think that's another interpretation of love, right? Having children and what you feel there and what you go through there. But it was still, even that, I did research and reading prior to having a child. And so even that is somewhat defined via textbook. And when you actually get into it, it's very different as well.
Yeah. And when you realized that you were falling in love with me and we started to have, a real relationship, what did you learn about the way we love regarding our cultures? You're North American, you have different heritage, you have a different religion, and I'm this French, European, independent woman. So what did you learn about this other way to bring love and the other definition I brought about love?
So I was just thinking about that now in regards to what led me down the path where I am today regarding love. You mentioned the aspect of our differences, and yes, there were many, right? Yeah. The cultural, our backgrounds, our languages, foods. Yeah. There's a lot. And one of the things for me that I remember very early on was an argument.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically your sadness, where you said to me, "Why are you so angry at me? I just want to love you."
Yeah.
And I remember walking back into the room, because we were outside at the time on the balcony, and I felt it. And I wanted to understand and define it. And I'm wondering if that's what led me down the path of, one of my things that I knew I wanted to work on was my anger. My anger, I thought believed that the reasoning was because my mother was very angry, my grandfather was very angry, and so it was just a chain thing that obviously this is why I'm angry.
Yeah.
It was normal, or I felt it was normal because I had seen it. But anything can change, and this was one of the things that I absolutely wanted to work on and change about myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned early on, and I'm trying to remember now where I studied it, was one of the easiest ways to remove anger is via love. And
beautiful.
And so it was, okay, what does that mean? It means practicing love when there's anger. And now when I tell people the story, I refer to when someone else makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Because that's usually a time where the first instinct is to go to anger.
Yeah.
Right. And I use the reference as you're trying to get to work or somewhere, so you're in a hurry, so that your brain is already firing on these things that are happening, and you go to do something, for example, pick up your coffee, and you're given the wrong coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And and you see this, you literally could sit in a cafe and you see this quite often.
Yeah.
And generally at more busier places, and your natural instinct is to fly on anger and to get upset at the person usually, or take it out on the person usually, when I'm pretty confident they were not trying to mess up your coffee. It was, stuff happens. And so this is the practice where it's like, okay, love, right? I'm going to give this person love. I'm not going to get angry at them. And something that we've done is what we call our mantras, and love was the first mantra. And what we did, or what we try to do, is at the start of every year, we come up with a mantra for the year, and then we really work on practicing it. And they are not always easy. We have them, and love was our first.
Yeah. So what Shamez is talking about, the mantra, is like every year for New Year, we add a new mantra. Very simple. So first year was love, love, love. Second year was
trust, trust, trust.
Trust, trust, trust. Third year's
so we have flow.
Flow, flow, flow.
Flow is year 4.
Yeah. And this year is receive, receive, receive. So it's a mantra. But what we're talking about right now is the first time we had a mantra was love, love, love. So when Shamez is talking about practicing love, is actually the first mantra, practicing love, love, love. And it's something that may appear a bit simple, but actually this is
these mantras are not easy.
It's a practice. So what Shamez is talking about, like for him, anger was a challenge for him, like because of family anger, and each time he's triggered by anger, he's practicing love, love, love. So how to turn anger into love, basically, right? So this is probably the first emotional practice that you had in the
For sure, because even when it comes to emotions, there's emotions, and then there's the body side.
Yeah.
Right? So realizing what was happening inside my body so in the English language, we refer to anger as going from 0 to 60, right? Like it's in an instant, right? You're triggered and you fire. And, there's this buildup inside of us, right? You start to feel sweat, right? You start to sweat a little bit, exactly. You're starting to build up a little, and then it's up to you and how do you manage it.
Yeah.
Most folks feel it's normal to take it out on people. And I think another thing with respect to our practices and what makes things a little easier is Thailand. In Thailand, though it's not necessarily a practice of love, 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 there's also not fighting.
No anger, no visible anger.
Yeah,
they have internal
conflict.
Anger
conflict is not a normal thing here.
It's not visible.
It's not visible, and you'll see people communicate, and you'll see it. It's not like it's invisible, right? We're just humans.
Yeah.
But generally, if I was going to get upset with the person at the coffee place, they would say to me, "They're very sorry, and I don't have to take the coffee." It's not even replacement. It's not even like can I do something? It's just, we're sorry, you don't have to have the coffee, right? Like it's up to you. Where in our place, it's like, what? You're not even going to replace it? You're not going to give this for me? You're like, there's these expectations. Where it's here, it's like, we're sorry. And it's interesting because I mentioned this aspect of no conflict. And what better way to avoid conflict than just to say, we're sorry, you're welcome to go.
Yeah. So here, Shamez is talking about actually 3 different cultural ways to manage emotions, right? It's from North America, I'm from Europe, and we are in Asia. So just for anger, there is 3 different approaches, actually, like culturally accepted for anger. So that's very interesting. So probably anger was the first emotional work shift that you did. So far, what was for you the biggest emotional shift and learning that you actually have done for yourself through this relationship?
So, I mean, if we're staying on the subject of love, I genuinely believe now that I've been practicing it for years. Love is also an energy flow, right? And what I've noticed or recognized is that if I'm circulating it continuously, including in our relationship, but also with the people outside, it's a glowing energy, right? And other people start to see it and recognize it. And it makes it easier for me too. I also remember early on, I'm from a time where you walked on the street and smiled at people. And I enjoy that. And I remember something early on in our relationship where there was this expectation of someone to smile back. Yeah. And I remember something you shared with me. You're like, are you smiling because you're expecting a smile back?
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, maybe I am.
Ooh.
Because I come from a place where that was what everyone did.
Yeah.
And now it's not a normal thing that people do. And it's definitely not some places in Europe where they're like, why are you smiling at me?
No,
what is
not
wrong
in
with
France,
you?
for sure.
But now I do it everywhere. Yeah. And the people, and I can feel when people receive it and so forth. And this is just an example of that same energy, right? And it's a love thing. And there's no such thing as perfection. So I'm not talking in that way. Like I naturally do this stuff and I naturally, right? Like I do my best to practice, but I think for love, and when you talk about, one of the things that the relationship helped and what I was able to work on therefore is like, a saying that we've grown up with is what you practice in your home is what you take outside.
Yeah.
Right. And through our conversations and continuous discussions and especially learning, we take a lot of time to study and learn and practice within ourselves, right? To take the best of, and this is what we then take outside to the world, right? Including here in this interview and what you're doing, right? We have different professional practices where you have chosen to take this out to the world and help others by giving them the strength and power to find themselves, their true selves, to then, again, it starts from the inside out and then it becomes cyclical.
Yeah.
Right? That's energy flow.
It's energy flow. And it leads to transformation, right? So for 6 years, we are not the same people for sure. We went through 2 different parts. We are entering in part 3 in our relationship, but we went through many emotional tornadoes that we didn't expect, right? So, but now we are our nervous systems are much more stable, right? We can communicate better. Communication was a big thing due to the languages, the cultures, backgrounds, the textbooks were different. So now after 6 years, what was for you the most difficult emotional shift that leads to your biggest transformation as a person? What would it be for you?
Emotionally, it's still the anger stuff.
Yeah.
I had a lot of ego stuff that relates to anger, right? Because when you have a big ego, it's easy to yell at people. I was bullied as a child and became a bully as an adult. So I think, it was like once I realized the power of these emotions that we have inside, what they all are. Yeah. Love is powerful. Anger is powerful. Happiness is powerful. Yeah. Sadness is powerful. And you're allowed to have all these things and do all these things. Oh, yeah. And it's really comes down to what you're doing with them. What are the signs? What are you receiving? How are you managing them? What is the outside pressure that's doing it? Is it certain people that are doing it to you? And understanding and taking the time to understand. I just had this thought a couple of days ago. Before I was heavily into music once upon a time. I say heavily because I still enjoy music. I've recently started DJing again, which is something that I started at 11 years old. So it was always a part of my thing. And I never went anywhere without my headphones. And now I've come to realize that it was another thing that raises things within me, emotions.
Yeah.
And for at the time, you know, because I initially started as a pop DJ, hip hop DJ. Even in the hip hop culture and music, there's a lot of anger and
That's
you
true.
know, and so I was pumping it into myself, and obviously this was another thing that wasn't exactly the best for everything that was happening. But you're young, you're going for it. And now I prefer the silence, or I find music that matches my bio clock that's happening at that particular time, whether I'm working or resting or whatever it might be. And it's that aspect of management.
Totally. Shabazz, can you talk with us briefly about this ego transformation, right? Because as many people, when we come from, you know, childhood or, you know, difficult background, anger issue, or even violence, you know, emotionally or physically, right? We have this ego as a protection, right? And then we travel and then we meet people and we are challenged. And what was it for you, the big steps in your ego transformation so far?
So I think it was, I mentioned before, the aspect of us studying and then, you know, discussing using our relationship and then taking it to the outside world. And so that study came from inner child work.
Yes. Here we go. Ooh, big one. Yeah.
I had no clue or idea that, oh shit, this stuff has been in me forever. And it was nothing to do with what I did, but a lot to do with circumstances and situations because of the fact that this happens to us, you know, from 0 to 18.
Yeah.
Per se, right? Before we're adults, before we get into the working world. We were joking about that yesterday.
Yep.
And so I had no clue. And you invited me you were like, oh, you should watch this, participate in this inner child workshop.
Yes.
And, you know, I was game. One of the things that, number 3 was faith. Love, trust, faith, flow, and now we're in receive.
That's our mantras. Yeah. So we did this inner child workshop together.
Right.
How long ago was it?
That was it. Yes, I do. I started it when you broke up with me.
Okay. So what year? You remember?
22.
So 22, I suggested to Shabazz to do an online inner child workshop with 2 coaches. That was a couple, the wife and the husband. And we did that separately, but together. After a breakup, that was a really turning point for the relationship. And we actually healed or continue healing our inner children. And yeah, that actually helped to jump into the second part.
So again, coming back to the ego question.
Yeah.
For me, it was the realization that, I was bullied. Canada is looked upon now as one of the most multicultural places in the world.
Yeah.
But when I was born there, it absolutely was not.
Yes. You're not young enough.
And, you know, I have stories of remembering my dad walking in the mall, my dad holding my hand, and someone randomly coming out of nowhere and just yelling at him to go back to his country and, you know, being spat at. And I was bullied. I was beat up, you know, and it was what it was. And so when I started to do the inner child work, you know, and I'm very grateful that I since starting that work and even doing that work and continuing today, as I start to receive stuff, I'm able to go back to my parents and have open discussions.
Yeah.
Like my mom beat me. It was her way. I mentioned the anger, and so, you know, it was easy for her to hit me. And at that time, like, she grew up in an age where they were hit with sticks in school.
Yeah.
And so it was just normal that that's how you shut your kid up.
Yeah.
Now I have a large age difference between me and my sisters. My mom was 20 when she had me. And as we've discussed, her and I, you know, we talk about the inner child work. Now I'm able to have that conversation with my mom. And my mom said, I was 20. I was moved across the world because I was kicked out of my country. I was separated from my parents because they were not allowed to come with. I'm moving across the world with this man. We get there. There's the aspect of racism. There's the aspect of, I was a nurse as a professional, but they weren't hiring brown nurses. I would go to so many interviews and they would say, unfortunately, we don't have anything for you, even though she was more than qualified and had to go back to school, which she wasn't happy about either. And so there was all this resentment in a way happening in her life that it came out on me, unfortunately. You know, she absolutely still regrets it to today. And I know this because I've told her I was there, but I didn't know. She didn't know, but there was one time when my daughter was a baby, I was around the corner and I heard her saying to my daughter, you know, I'm sorry for these things that I did to your dad. I'm so proud of the person he's become.
Yeah.
And so, again, coming back to the inner child stuff, it was dissecting the whys.
Yeah.
Why am I like this? Why am I like this? And like
as an adult.
Yeah. As an adult. And then it becomes practice. And the practice is, okay, that person isn't being racist towards me. He's just asking me something and I can just answer him or walk away. I have the choice. But you're triggered, and you're triggered because it's the inner child. And I love the ability now to realize that it's happening. You know, again, I mentioned the bully stuff, and I did some gang stuff too, once upon a time, and you're running from security guards or police officers. And funny enough, I was here entering the train station, and a guard was being trained, and so they stopped me to look in my bag. And when I got upstairs to the platform, I was firing on the inside, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I realized that, oh my God, this is again, as a kid, when I was with people and they were taking stuff from stores, we were trying to get away. And so it's just old stuff.
It's old stuff.
Baggage that we no longer need. And it's going through the journey of the realization that, hey, this is not me today. Right? So when I got on that platform, I had this smile on my face. I talked to my inner child to be like, hey, everything is fine. We didn't steal anything. We're not with, you know, the other members. We're not trying to get away from someone. It was just a guy being trained to look in my bag, and there was nothing in my bag to hide.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you mentioned the inner child as a tool to transform, and also because as a child, we don't have all the skills, emotionally speaking, and we also don't have the skills communication-wise, right? As adults, we are not a child, and we learn also about emotions triggered by relationship, but we also develop communication skill, right? Because we are triggered in relationship. We have all the emotions, inner child emotion coming up, and we learn how to communicate, right? This is how we can thrive in relationships, especially, the complex ones and deep and conscious like ours. So,
and you
what
mentioned
was your journey with communication?
Oh my God. I was just about to say,
big one,
I was just about to say, and you mentioned communication. I can do the funny stuff. I could do the serious stuff. And the funny stuff is this. In North America, we have this thing where we overtalk. It's like, you know, it's like you're saying something and I jump in and we jump in and bam, bam, bam. And so it's just natural. It's how we speak. And now, again, we're able to kind of discuss the whirlwind that she goes through when I'm around, especially other Canadians, and how fast it is and how we go. So there's a few things there, which is sentence structure and waiting for a pause, right? And your brain's already firing on what you're going to say next. And the skill set that it needs to let someone get to an end, to then. So there's that aspect.
Yeah.
And then really what it is for me was another one of my powerful tools is journaling. Because it helped me a lot on the anger side.
Yeah.
Right? Because instead of taking it out on a person, I can take it out in my notes. And even through learning journaling, there's different practices that you can use to help you do certain things.
Yeah. To help you communicate also.
For sure, right? Like, so that's part of it. And so when we come back to the communication, it's easier. I found it easier for me to go to my journal with anything that's big, to write it in my journal, and then even cross things out, because you start to realize when you're like first going like whack, 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 and you're just writing and exploding in paper, I guess you could say, instead of another human, you can then go back to it and be like, oh, okay, there's a lot of stuff here. And that's usually how I do it, is like I just dump it in there and then I come back to it. And when I come back to it, I'm like, okay, like this is just repetitive stuff here. And there's sometimes where I just say, I ask you to just give me the space so I can just read these things, and not with anger, because we're doing it much time later where it's still expressed. And it's now released, and it's how we now work on it.
Yeah. So this is a very important point, because we starting journaling at the very beginning of our relationship. So I was journaling before, I was a journaling junkie. So you started to journal, and because I didn't understand English at that time, and we were not emotionally equipped to communicate, because what you're talking about is about communicating emotions. This is what we had to learn. So the deep communication, in a way, that was not easy. But yeah, journaling was a very important thing. And also you mentioned asking for space and time. So this is something also we had to learn, because we couldn't actually read our emotions. Sometimes it was too strong, like volcanoes of anger and stuff like that. So we had to learn.
It reminds me of another powerful one, is walking the F away.
Yeah. So time and space, right?
Time and space.
So yeah, that's very important. Now I feel also more free, right? To be with you, to communicate.
And it's not taken.
Before it was very anxious.
Yeah, and it's not taken personally, because, before it was, I can't believe she just walked away from me.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe a few words about the fact that maybe in the audience, some of you, in your romantic relationship, you have those two attachment styles, the avoidant person and the more codependent person. No, it's very frequent. So it's like we are meant to be together to actually, the codependent can become more independent, and the avoidant, that is me, can be more relying to the other person. So what was your journey about that?
It's super interesting because, as we mentioned, we had just split up when we started this inner child work.
Yeah.
And I know I have this still in my notes where they mention how these two styles should be managed independently, but can be powerful together.
Yeah.
Because of the balance.
Yeah.
And I remember writing this going, man, because we had just, we'd split up, and I'm like, man, I want to do this with her. And it ended up happening that way. But now that it's been years, it's turned into power.
Yes, that's true.
Right? We were just talking about this last night.
So what's your new power you developed by shifting.
I love being by myself.
Yes.
It's like I absolutely love
Finally.
being by myself.
Yeah.
And I can do it all. I go to movies by myself. I take trips by myself. There was once upon a time, because of this codependency, I would probably not leave my apartment unless someone was coming with me.
Mm-hmm.
I would get on the phone and call and message and be like, where you guys at? What's happening? What are you guys doing? Blah, blah, blah. Because the feeling of doing these things alone was, I guess, certain signs of there's something wrong.
Yeah.
As opposed to them being powerful. And interesting enough, this is what I'm trying to teach my daughter now, because both myself and my ex-partner come from similar family backgrounds, religious aspects, where we were conditioned in that way. And so I can already feel it from my daughter, where I want to teach her this independence at a young age, because I understand and feel the power of it now. And even interestingly enough, when we talk about our chapter 3, it's the communication where I'm no longer that person, mm-hmm. right? I absolutely love being with you. I miss you. I feel you. All of those things that you learn in dependency, but at the same time, I love myself. I love what I do and able to do on my own, and the power of that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's super powerful if you're able to get there, because of the fact of, like, for me as a dependent, it was literally this feeling of, I can't do these things unless you're with me, which is absolutely not the case.
Nope.
It's absolutely not the case. And when you do those things, you realize that you just see way more. You see way more, because you're no longer, I want to do this, but I can't do this because I know you don't like this. Mm-hmm. As a most simple thing, right? Now it's, I want to do this. Do you want to join me? No, that's cool. I want to do this.
Okay. So now we are jumping into chapter 3. Right? Sure. We have just celebrated 6 years anniversary.
All week. We celebrated
this is still the anniversary week, but we are flying to our 2 countries tomorrow. I'm going to France, you're going to Canada. And actually, it's like a transition to chapter 3. We are transitioning to chapter 3. Mm-hmm. So to come back to the theme of this interview, what have you learned about love, and what is love through the eyes of the man you are today?
I think it's similar to what I spoke about initially, right? That the love energy has to flow, mm-hmm. right? So obviously from inside, loving oneself, loving yep. one's power, that's how we can take it
inner child
outside, right? Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely cyclical. So, when it comes to whether it's this trip, right? So there are people that I am excited to see and be with and experience. Part of it is, a large part of it is professional, and I'm excited about that and the things that, the people and the things I get to do there. Right? All cyclical. So in my professional life, in my personal life, this aspect of love is situated throughout. And I think that's the continuance as I go into chapter 3. Mm-hmm. By continuance, I mean practicing on the regular. Yeah. Because ever since I have started these practices, they're kind of working.
They are.
Right? I feel great. The people around me feel great. And I know that they are. So yeah. I want to continue them until I'm no longer blessed to be this vessel on this planet.
Because it's working. My last question would be, what have you learned about who you are mm-hmm. through this relationship that you potentially wouldn't have learned without being in this relationship?
I mean, it's a combination of all the things we've somewhat spoken about.
Yeah.
Right. So the learning about the anger, ego stuff.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah.
It's totally,
That's the point.
It's not me.
Yeah.
It's what I learned it's what I learned from those around me. It's how I was conditioned and what I went through. But, you know, even I mentioned some of the gang stuff that I was involved with. You know, whenever there were fights, I didn't go. Mm-hmm. I always had an excuse or whatever. And there were wars, like there were physical violent stuff. And I remember I would disappear. Because it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. And so, by going through this exercise of the inner child work, the relationship, because we were able to communicate and talk about these things, right? So in some of your journey, right, the family stuff that you've gone through, the abuse stuff that you've gone through, being able to discuss it, you know, the definition of man, right, is defined out there as societal stuff.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I said to you a couple of times, please stop grouping me in with the same group just because, you know, I have a penis.
You have?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Right, I don't wish to be grouped in that way because I've understood and gone through due diligence of studying masculine and female energies. And I like them. I like flowers just as much as she likes flowers. And there shouldn't be an issue with that. I buy flowers for myself because of the joy that they bring me. And so these are all the things that I think that I'm most excited about continuing on for chapter 3. And as you continue to do with respect to your practice and sharing with others, I believe that those around me are also receiving the same. You know, on my professional call last week, someone half actingly joked about manifestation because I talk about it and I believe in it, and something happened in that way that was joyful for all of us. And you know, they mentioned how that's kind of who I am and that's my practice, and this isn't a corporate professional setting where the word manifestation can be used and it's not looked upon or frowned upon.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, mon cœur. A very last question.
Cool.
I'm curious, actually, I've never asked you this question.
Okay.
What is it for you to be with an emotional coach at home?
So at the start, if you recall,
Yeah.
I had to ask you to separate girlfriend and coach.
Okay.
Do you remember?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, but that was learning, right? And there's power to that too. And there's strength and realism to that as well. But I think it's one of the best things that happened to us. You know, our story goes that I was completely not the person I think I am today. But it wasn't, I knew it wasn't right. I knew there was more to this aspect of life and stuff. I could feel it. Like I don't know if there was heaviness, but there wasn't lightness. Right? Yeah. I wasn't waking up every day like I do today, happy and excited for the day. You know, even if things go wrong at the office, even though I don't have a physical office, even if things go wrong on a professional side of things, they would get to me. And I didn't know how to manage them. And so I'm super blessed to have had COVID happen in my life. And I know it's different for everybody. Some people lost many others and it was very difficult, and others were able to strive. And I fall in the strive category where I was able to shut down. And I was absolutely a multitasker, go-getter, accomplishing many things, on to the next thing, planner. What else can I put in that bucket? But that's who I was. And because of the COVID break where the world shut down, it also allowed me to shut down. And I remember being invited to a challenge, and I participated in this challenge, and it was a health conscious challenge, and something inside of me was triggered because of growing up in religion. And growing up in religion reminded me of my parents' teachings, where my parents weren't pushing religion, they were teaching me faith. They were teaching me belief, right? Believe in a higher self, believe in yourself. My parents were very good in the sense of anything I brought to the table, they encouraged me to go after. And that's a belief, right? That's teaching belief. And if things don't work out, having faith. Mm-hmm. And it started to trigger me where I was like, what happened to me? I continued the challenge. It was a 21-day challenge. It started with 100 people. I think there were 9 of us at the end. And during this time, I met this person. And this person had been working with coaches for a long time and had a lot of information. And another takeaway from my exercise and my journey has been, I love to learn. I really enjoy learning. And this person had a lot of information and wealth. And so when the original question about what's it like being with an emotional coach, at the start, it was a lot of soaking this in and wanting to take it to practice. And then it was finding my own practices, right? So even though your recent practice in somatic energies, right, which you've dove into of recent, I had found somatic energies a couple of years ago in a teacher and started practicing it and was like, wow, this is really powerful stuff, and using it also. So it went from soaking everything in from you, studying on my own, to now having the deep discussions like we continue to do when we're together, which are awesome. And so I think with respect to the original question, it initially started as, I absolutely don't know my emotions. I don't know how to manage them or do what with them. I'm going to take what you're saying to me because I love and respect you. I'm going to practice, find my own practices, because there's differences. Female, male be the first obvious one. And then I'm going to develop my own practice that helps me manage my emotions, because that's my own responsibility and not yours.
So it was very interesting to look at you creating your own emotional technologies and practices. Thank you, Mocha, for this time.
Thank you, Amandine.
Together and with my dear audience. I would like to ask you to say something to my audience in French.
In French?
Yes. What would you like to tell them? You know, they are really happy to meet you.
Not going there.
What do you know?
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Voilà.